We're ready to
Ready to
go,
go,
Cassandra.
Cassandra.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
Lisa.
Lisa.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're all ready
All
to
ready to
go.
go. Okay, well, good morning, everyone.
I'd like to
I'd
call
like to
this
call this
meeting
meeting
to
to
order.
order.
It
It
is
is
a
a
work
work
session,
session, so I would
encourage
encourage the supervisors to speak up when they wish
during
during
any
any
presentation.
presentation.
July
July
29th,
29th,
it's
it's
just
just
a
a
hair
hair
after 10
after 10
o'clock.
o'clock.
I've
I've
asked
asked
Zoe
from
the
the
CSA
CSA to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning, if you would stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Our first item today,
I'll read
I'll read in a second, but involves the County Supervisors Association, okay? And with us today, we have Zoe, who led our pledge, and we also have Jacob, and we have Craig. And then we have the president of the CSA currently serving
from
from Yuma County, Lynn
and
Kraz.
Yes.
And so let me go ahead and read the item, and then we can get started on the presentation. Are you going to be up first to say a few words? Supervisor? Okay. Item 2A is information discussion on the activities of the County Supervisors Association by Craig Sullivan, the CSA Executive Director, including a discussion of recent legislative activities. Supervisor, please come on up.
It's a
It's a pleasure to have you.
Welcome
to the greatest county in Arizona.
Well, I have to disagree because I love Yuma, but I don't believe him. No, he does. He does all that presentation stuff. I'm just gonna say a few words. But it was beautiful drive up here, and it went from 100 to 80 to 80. It was kind of nice coming up there. So, okay. So thank you.
Now, have you been to the northern part of Gila County?
Payson, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a very large, diverse
I know.
area.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Pretty pleased with it.
Yeah, I think so too. It is beautiful.
Thank you.
I have to say. And spending the summers up there might be nice. Instead of Yuma. In fact, anybody from Yuma who can afford it, have places up in Payson and all those places where they try to get away from
We appreciate your support.
the heat. Yes. Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's very nice to be here today in Gila County. I'm Lynn Packresy. I am a county supervisor in Yuma County and currently your president for CSA. I wanted to thank you for your involvement in CSA. The partnership that we have between the counties and CSA makes our organization and our counties work so much more effectively. So grateful for your participation. In fact, we have a lot in common in rural Arizona. So Supervisor Chairman Christensen, thank you for serving on the Legislative Policy Committee board. That meets, for those who don't know, every Friday while the legislature is in session, and with the young man back here, Jacob, well, everybody's young for me, but anyway, with the young man back there, Jacob, who is our legislative liaison for CSA, he not only fights for bills to be passed, to be denied, but he also works to have them amended that are going to impact the counties. And with your involvement on the Legislative Policy Committee, we vote on what we take our positions on. So that's a very, very important position.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, yeah. And Supervisor Klein, thank you for serving on the Western Interstate Region. I have to tell you, I got to give him a hug at NACO the other day because he presented a a resolution at the NACO convention in Ag and Rural Affairs that usually goes in public lands. So thank you. That was very good.
Thank you.
Yes. And so thank you for serving. And you have one coming up, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Enjoy. Finally, James, he has been to as many of these, or probably more, of the county board of supervisor meetings around the state as I have, because he serves as the chair of the county managers and administrators association. Thank you. And we work very closely with those folks because they help manage our counties. And thank you for coming for those. Now, the team from CSA, we've already introduced them, but we've already introduced Jacob, and then there's Zoe, who is our researcher, and does a lot of the statistics you find to help us manage our counties. She is just amazing. You can ask her anything about the research, and she can find it just like that. I don't know about you guys, but computers and finding stuff is not what I do best, but it is what she does best, and she is amazing at it. Thank you. And she's an import from Maine, so she was enjoying the trip up there. Yeah. She is enjoying the trip up here and seeing the part of Arizona she hadn't seen yet. So.
Yeah, it was nice. Now, before I continue, I want to give a plug for the CSA Legislative Convention in Yuma this year, October 29th and 28th through the 30th. We have a haunted tour of the Yuma Territorial Prison, and of course, we'll go over all those legislative positions that different counties want to do. It's our very, very most important meeting of the year, so I hope to see you guys there and enjoy the weather. It should be beautiful by then. Keep my fingers crossed. And without any further ado, I want to introduce Craig. Everybody knows Craig. Craig is the reason CSA is so effective and helpful to the counties because of his leadership. And with that, he's going to tell you guys all the stuff we got done this year.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. It's a pleasure to be with you today. For the record, my name is Craig Sullivan with the County Supervisors Association. I was grateful that the President could join us and some of our team members to participate in this work session. But just to begin, I want to echo what the President said about our appreciation for your partnership in our association. We're deeply grateful for your involvement. We feel very integrated with this county in many ways because of the good work that your county manager does working with us to chair the County Managers Association. And we really are grateful to be a part of your staff just based down in Phoenix. And I want to extend my appreciation to your contract consultants as well, Andy Jacobs and Todd Bowman. They're great partners with us, and we're all really on Team County, Team Gila County. And I think it's a real fun place to work, and we're grateful for the opportunity to be in this workshop with you all. So that's just kind of the little opening that I wanted to share and express our gratitude. But I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about the association, and I've given you some content to look at. One is a portfolio of work product that you all have that will help you kind of get a sense of the visualizations and data mining that we do to support the counties across the multitude of policy areas that you all work with. I also put together a slide deck that is a report, and it's got a lot of content in it, Mr. Chairman, but I'm just going to hit some of the highlights so that we can get to the conversational part of the work session. So with your permission, I'll just start scanning through some of this. But I'm happy to stop if you have any questions and you want to explore anything.
Yeah, well, it's a work session, so
Yeah.
we'll pick up. Yeah, exactly.
So let me just begin with, for the folks who are here who are not familiar with our organization, who we are. The County Supervisors Association is just a collaboration of the 15 counties. We're nonpartisan. We do research and policy work, and we exist to help support decision making at the county level, the state level, and the federal level. And supervisors have been doing this as long as we've had a state. The earliest minutes we have of the Associated County Supervisors coming together was in 1913. And it won't shock you, they were talking about roads and they were talking about indigent care. The world hasn't changed too much in what we have to do to serve the public, but the scope of it sure has. But that's why we exist, and we're really proud of the collaboration we have. We're supervisor driven, so all 61 supervisors serve on our board of directors. We do have a legislative policy committee. Mr. Chairman, thanks for serving on that with us. And it's really how we get really integrated with all of you. I know every Friday morning through session is a lot, but thank you for your extra time.
You're welcome.
So we'll move into some of the reports. What I did here is just compiled some activities where we use the organization as a forum and an intergovernmental office for the county. So you can see a list of the speakers that came by to visit with the supervisors last year in our board meetings, policy professionals, elected leaders, other technical experts. We also serve on behalf of the counties on various task forces. So we are regularly being plugged in to work groups or task forces on your behalf to make it a little more efficient for counties to be involved. And you can see on the left some of the major ones that were plugged in there. Spending a lot of time on the PSPRS pension system for obvious reasons, having to stabilize it, pay down the debt, and now making sure that there's good governance going forward. We also meet regularly with what we call affiliate groups. So I mentioned Mr. Menlove chairs our managers group. Monthly meeting, we sit around the table, we workshop policy issues and operational issues. It's the same thing in the other affiliates, planning directors, finance directors, where we just try to create a strong collaboration among all the counties, even at the professional staff level. So that's something we really enjoy, and there's a lot of work that goes on in that space. The next few slides are going to highlight what is our analytics function. And you all know that good decisions require good information. And so our data team spends a lot of time building out a foundational database of information that we can then bring forward in terms of analysis. Our database is about 8 million data points now. And what we do is every year we set a plan where we're importing new information, and then we do that on an annual basis. So what am I talking about? Publicly available information in state agencies, Department of Revenue, access, transportation, county budget information. We just start bringing it all in, and then we're able to work with it. And it helps us put good visualizations together on county policy issues. And so it's a lot of fun, and it underscores or undergirds everything that we do. The next few slides will show you how it plugs in and some of the products that we're able to deliver there. So we focus on how county government works, and that's across all manner of functions. You know that we have heavy responsibilities in the court system, state health care, and then of course all the various state mandates that you provide. We've been digging into how certain policies impact county operations. And so we've done some specific analysis into the indigent healthcare system along the border to see how policies have been driving costs in their criminal justice system. And we've been looking in some other policy areas, as you see here. And we've been spending a fair amount of time on what's happening in the public workforce. And this is where we've been doing partnerships with the Arizona Board of Regents to get research help to look into the public workforce, largely in public safety and detention. How counties manage mandated functions. One of the interesting things about the counties is they're in the Constitution and they're delegated to serve constituents on a regional basis, and we've all grown up 15 different ways. So some of what we've been doing in this space is breaking down those silos to say, well, what is happening across these different functions? How are we doing things differently? Where are there commonalities? And that's been helping out, just getting better eyes into the county system. One project we're working on now with Arizona State University is related to procurement and how we can do that function more efficiently and effectively going forward. And we're hopeful to have a neat project coming out later in the fall related to that. So on the data analytics side, and this shows you some of the products that we put out, a lot of this is on our website. But what we're finding is that we're struggling to take this mountain of information and get it out in a digestible way. So right now we are reconfiguring our website and working through how to make this more available to you. Your managers and program folks have accessed this stuff and work with us, but we want to get it out for the public. And so know that we're hopeful, well, we know that in the fall, we'll have a nice new reconfiguration where you'll be able to get into the database, you'll be able to look at county tax rates, special districts, any manner of information, and help and just inform your own kind of understanding of county government. Now, it doesn't mean you can't, you know, you can stop calling us, because we love hearing from you when we can mine it for you. But I think it'll be very helpful in that regard. Now, the next few slides are about the legislature, and I'm not going to do it fully justice in how we work on your behalf as an intergovernmental office, because it would take the balance of an hour and a half. But what you should know is this. There are hundreds of bills that touch county operations that come into the process every year. And what our team does is we scour all those, then we get your direction on what you would like to do, support, oppose, amend, and then we go work with lawmakers to do that. Overwhelmingly, what we're trying to do as an association is help the counties deal with the 95% of bills that affect really everybody, and how can we efficiently engage those. So as part of that, we are involved in the budget conversation. So I put a few slides here related to the budget. This slide shows the various policy areas that they put one-time money. Now, what they did is they came up with an agreement to really just allocate one-time money and then put those in initiatives that the governor and members wanted. What that led to is a situation where $900 million of money was allocated. Very little of that was on an ongoing basis. Now, why does that matter? Because problems usually require ongoing solutions. It's good to have one-time money. You can do roads, you can do other types of improvements, but there are issues that have to be solved on a one-time basis, and I'm going to highlight some of those in a minute. But if you look in fiscal year 2027 on the ending balance, the red box that I put there for you, what this shows you is that the state really spent down all its cash going into the next fiscal year, right? And so if the economy swings up, that's not a big issue. If it swings down, it'll make things a little bit tight. As they start onboarding some of these federal programs that have been modified, Medicaid, SNAP, that's going to affect that bottom line. And so that's something on the horizon that we're all going to have to pay attention to. What's the state's financial situation as they have to address Medicaid costs and SNAP costs to the extent they want to address those. Since they did a lot of one-time money, they allocated it across all manner of things. And these are just issues where the state put their priorities. Stipends for correction officers, law enforcement pay raises, various capital projects, child care support, that was a big issue for the governor, and then a lot of local project allocations. Now, these are some items that we cared about in the budget, and so let me just spend a little bit of time on these. I mentioned that they didn't solve ongoing problems very significantly. A lot of our items, which are the state-county financial relationship, need to be solved on an ongoing basis. So this year, they are funding what they owe the probation officers out of federal money for a fiscal year. This is for raises that have been given in the last few years, but that wasn't done ongoing. So in the next fiscal year, the state's going to have to solve the resources that need to be made available for probation. Probation officers are officers of the court, they're state employees, but obviously they operate here locally. We were able to make modifications to the Juvenile Dependency Fund. That's listed for you there. You'll start getting monies on a regular basis coming out of that. That's something Jacob worked on significantly. The state did make the increased appropriation for JP salaries on an ongoing basis. That was important for us. And then long-term care. The counties pay a significant portion of the state match for the long-term care system. If we looked at your property tax rate, a large portion goes right back to the state to pay for the long-term care system. It didn't go up that much this year, which is a good thing. Went up 10 million statewide. But as you know, in recent years, we've seen double-digit increases in that long-term care payment. And in the future, we may see upward pressure there. And so know that. That's something that we really have to pay a lot of attention to, particularly as they address the Medicaid policy changes that they have to put into statute. And in the upper right, there was a small change related to the correction officer's retirement plan. This is the employer contribution for the defined contribution. They increased that from 5% to 5.5%. They also allocated monies to defray the local costs. So that's a good thing, but we've been a little bit concerned about them just making policy decisions without a multi-year vision on what they're trying to do and accomplish and how they're going to resource it. And I anticipate that that issue is going to continue to be an issue going forward. So I wanted to flag all of those items for you. These are just other county relevant items that came down the pike. And this shows how the legislature allocated money to counties for different things. And this really came about because of the member-driven budget, where they said, okay, members, you have X number of dollars. What would you like to spend it on? And then it starts materializing across many stakeholders, but in county land, this is how it looked. The good thing about it is that it does bring dollars to counties that have projects that they may want, but the bad thing about it is we're not looking at needs across the state, right? It's really about what members are willing to make particular asks, and you can see that disparity across these local distributions.
So, Craig, can I
Yes,
ask,
sir.
how can we change these? Is there a way to change these numbers?
That's a great question. I think how counties choose to make requests of their members is what influences that allocation, and then members executing on that. And so I know one of the conversations is to the extent there's one-time money in the budget for next year, what are Gila County's priorities, and where do you want to look at trying to position yourself? I think that's the way to influence that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So moving on to just bills, we always take bills in from the counties and we'll run some. These are the bills that we ran this year. What's the common theme? Basic government, right? We had to reauthorize the waste tire fund, deal with sanitarians qualifications. That's something we worked on with Gila County, post-conviction capital relief, things like that. Important basic government stuff that we run. This slide just highlights some of the reactive advocacy, and when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about just bills that are put in the process and then we have to deal with them. Jacob spends an enormous amount of time in stakeholder meetings. This just gives you a menu of the areas that we were working on. This is more about bills that actually passed. So we just recently distributed a summary of all the bills that passed the Touch County operations. They're 70 pages worth. So there's a lot. This is just kind of a sampling. A couple of things that I'll highlight here. Policy changes related to accessory dwelling units in your development services department. You'll want to have your team look at that. Policy changes related to the auditing of the treasurer's office. That comes about because of the criminal activity that occurred with the treasurer in Santa Cruz County. We supported it. It's going to be important plus up and other things that kind of came down the pike. Mr. Chairman, since you spent so much time with us on our LPC, I want to take a stab at telling you you didn't waste your time. So I tried to quantify just some of that activity to give you a sense of the volume of bills that went through that process, and you participated in providing guidance. Your professional staff for giving us insight into it. There's just a lot of work that goes on to it. And I'm really proud of the fact that Caitlin and Jacob testified close to 40 times this year. So that's getting out there and getting the message out as it relates to your priorities. And the amount of coverage they did to meet all the new legislators and then work with the incumbents was pretty significant this year. And so they really hustled and burned a lot of shoe leather to just get out there and share the county perspective. These are the reports that are coming out to close the session. We are very grateful that we have finally wrapped up those reports, but I'll tell you the reward for doing that is that we got to start planning all over again for next session. We don't get much of a break for that. And the president talked about how we are going to do this all again. We're going to start meeting in September, right? We'll have our managers meetings. Our summit, where we set our agenda, is in October in Yuma. If you have policy items, and I know we've already received one, get those to us by the 4th. Mr. Menlove and his colleagues are going to process all the issues that are coming up a week from Friday when we get together, and we'll just start rolling and get everything plugged in so we can be ready for the next legislative session. So, Mr. Chairman, that's what I wanted to share, and I know I went kind of fast over a lot of information, but I want to thank you again. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Craig. Yeah, really great presentation. So we'll just open it up for discussion. Supervisor Humphrey, you want to get us started?
Yeah, I don't have any questions, Greg. I just appreciate all you do. I mean, we're only as good as our information, and you have an awful lot of information and continue to keep gathering it. And you know, there's always numbers make a big difference. And so you working for all the counties makes a big difference, because I don't know how we would function without CSA. So
Thank you. It's our pleasure. We love the
thank you
team.
and your staff for all you do for us counties, especially the rural ones.
Thank you, Supervisor Klein.
Craig, thank you, and thanks for everybody that's helping you there. Tremendous amount of help. One question I had for you, just real quick, and I know it's a deep subject, but our water issues in the state. Have you got any just quick update or recap of where we're at with any of that right now?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So a couple of things. There were some policy changes that occurred this year, largely active management area related policies, existing regulated areas. The big one was something called ag to urban, which is about transitioning ag rights to urban. The rural conversation, there's been no resolution to the disagreements that are on the table now. There's been, as you very well know, a significant amount of meetings on some type of rural regulatory structure that would be customized to various basins. There's strong opinions on both sides of that. The governor had advanced a policy, Chairwoman Griffin had advanced a different policy. There was no progress on those items. So I anticipate that those issues will continue to be a point of conversation. All of the bills, and I could be wrong, that I'm seeing pass have to do with active management area related policies. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Craig.
Yes, sir.
That continues to be a real important subject for us up here. So,
Absolutely.
but thank you for everything you guys do. You're awesome. I don't know. I didn't realize that it all started way back in 2013. That's amazing to me. But what a concept and what a progress it's been.
Mr. Chairman, it was pretty remarkable when we came across those minutes, and I had a sense of fatalism, because I'm like, these issues will long outlast me too, you know, as I go forward. But I was pretty proud to just see that that's the value of you coming together with your colleagues. Folks have been doing it since the beginning.
Well, thank you so much, and it's good to have you guys here.
All right, it's our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. And I suppose our manager wants to say something, but I will say it's a real pleasure to serve on the Legislative Policy Committee. And if you have not done that, it's a little eye-opening at the quantity of bills that are presented. We don't review every single one, and so it's filtered down to those that affect the counties the most. And it's surprising how many actually come through that are would have a rather negative effect for counties, their income, and their ability to keep going. So you're in the county that has the least amount of public land, 3.5%. And so we're not a wealthy county, but we're managing and we're doing well, but we don't need to have income reduced through the assessor's office or appraisals or all the other things that seem to be coming through and sometimes pass. We do have a governor that vetoes a tremendous amount, record-breaking amounts. And so as the legislature comes with bills that do make sense, a lot of times they never make it to law as well. And so that's the political side of things, and I really appreciate you and your staff, and there's several people that are not here that are on your staff, for this non-political approach that you take, because we do have various viewpoints throughout all the different counties. And I don't see that so prevalently. We don't really discuss politics as much as we discuss policies that are good for the county and the people.
Yes, sir.
And I really appreciate that and the way you guys present everything. We could not do it without you. I think that's obvious. So I thank you very much for being here today.
Well, it's our pleasure. And thanks for the observation on how we operate our business, because we do view ourselves as we're focusing on operations and resources in the county portfolio, and politics is not what we're playing in.
And you balance that very well. So, Mr. Menlove.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Craig, thank you to your team and all that you do. It's tremendous. I was reviewing over the weekend Jacob's report, 70, 80 pages or whatever it was, and tremendous content, tremendous detail of what happened over the last 6 months. And there was a lot. So thank you to you and all of your team. I would like to, at some point, follow up on what Supervisor Christensen, Chairman Christensen touched on of the specific appropriations. And as an accountant, I kind of focus on the financial end of things and looked at the several pages and allocations to different counties. And Representative Marshall, he comes to us at the beginning of a session and says, what are your needs? And the ask is for us to give him a list. We gave him a list of mostly public safety type of things. We did not get those things. And so, and you touched on that doesn't necessarily move us collectively as a state, 15 counties together. And I'd like to have that discussion with you and your team, perhaps with county managers of
Yes, sir.
how that impacts us, and just a further discussion on that. Because I know that our representatives are going to ask us for that list again, and
Absolutely.
how does that work?
No, happy to do that. We'll add that to the agenda for next week.
Yeah. And look forward to working with you. And President Pancrazi, thank you for coming to Gila County. We really appreciate and your service that you give to all of us, including Gila County. Thank you for being here. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if there's nothing else, then thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate
Chairman,
it.
members. Pleasure.
And,
Thank you, Craig.
All right, let's move on to item 2B, information discussion with Andy Jacobs, Todd Bingham of the Policy Development Group to review the timeline of the upcoming Arizona legislative session and explore potential legislative submissions on behalf of Gila County to address key issues of concern. Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Menlove.
Mr. Chairman, as was noted at the end of Craig's presentation, that August 4th is a deadline for us to inform CSA of issues that we want to have taken to the body at our summit in October, the end of October. And so this today is to have that discussion with Andy and Todd to present them, have that discussion of what issues do we have in Gila County that we need to have addressed, potentially discussed, and potentially taken to the state legislature in the next session beginning in January. Without further ado, Mr. Chairman, Todd and Andy.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Christensen and board members. Andy Jacobs with Policy Development Group. I'm here with Todd Bowman, my colleague. I'll try to kick it off, and if I miss anything, Todd can come fill me in, fill you guys in. But I think kind of what we wanted to do today was piggyback a little bit off of the CSA folks. They do a great job of covering what went down this session. But this is Todd and I's 5th year we're in with Gila County, and we've really enjoyed working for the county. You guys have a diverse county, a lot going on, and we like this opportunity to explain to the public what we do on your behalf. And I think the bottom line is we just try to fill ourselves in as an extension of you and Mr. Menlove. And so when we're down there and Craig's explaining about the thousands and hundreds of bills that get put up and passed and vetoed. These things happen very quickly, and being down in Phoenix is not always the easiest for you guys. And so for Todd and I to be down there and be in the midst of that, that's what we're trying to do for you. And so having been doing this for y'all for a few years now, we thought we'd highlight some of the successes we've had and talk about a few things that we hope to succeed in the future on. So, and I do want to say, on behalf of CSA, Supervisor Pancrazzi, thank you for coming all the way up here, and Craig and Jacob and Zoe. Todd and I had lunch with Jacob a few weeks ago, right? I think it was the last week of session, and I'm sure Jacob had a million things he needed to do and get done, but he took the time out of his day to come talk Gila County priorities with us. So great partner, and appreciate y'all coming here and everything you do for Gila County. So just a high-level overview of some of the things that Todd and I engage on Gila County on behalf of is working with you all, the supervisors, with Mr. Menlove and staff, try to be that extension of staff where and when we can. Work with CSA, obviously, ACO and other groups that represent counties as a whole. The governor and her staff, I guess we're in our second governor now working with you guys. It was Governor Ducey and now Governor Hobbs. We've worked with several of the departments at the state level, veterans, forestry, ADOT, DIFM, several others, and working with other key stakeholders, SRP, some of the utilities, other folks in the private sector. I know we were out on the Cragen project with the SRP folks and some of you all, and then obviously key legislators. I think we've had great relationships with the folks who represent you down at the legislature. Like Mr. Menlove mentioned, we try to get them out here every year and go through what your priorities are. And the politics are, always going to be a factor, and so we have to navigate that. But I think in general, your representation has been pretty good over the last few years. I don't think we need to go too in depth here since Craig went through most of this. But yeah, we've got the 280,000 that Craig highlighted for the Sheriff's Department. We did have another record number of vetoes, as one of you mentioned earlier, where we got 174 last year versus 2023 there was 143, which was the record at that time. So we are in a divided situation, and this year on the budget it actually became even more unique, where the Senate and the governor worked together to hammer out a budget. The House had their own budget, so you had a House and Senate that are Republican and a governor who's Democrat, and one chamber worked with the opposite party governor. The other chamber did their own thing, and they had to resolve that, and that's why some of these things, they either slip through the cracks, or they can't get it done in time, or some things we get in right under the wire, which we'll talk a little bit about. Craig mentioned the Ag to Urban bill. Todd and I have sat in many of those rural groundwater reform meetings. I think Supervisor Christensen was in some of those meetings. I think Supervisor Klein has been in a few. But that's something that next session we will continue to be engaged on. There hasn't been any agreement, as Craig mentioned, on particularly rural areas like Gila County. They tend to be focused on some of the other issues, but I think our message in those meetings has been rural control, local control is of the utmost importance to you three and the county. Education empowerment accounts, those are still in, even though the governor has set it sort of priority to do away with those. So that's something that folks keep their eye on, and we'll see how things play out after next year's elections. But this year, the ESAs are still there. One interesting component of the last couple of years is the Dino Committee. It's a Senate committee that was formed to focus on confirming agency heads and directors. So that's been a very tough committee led by Senator Hoffman, and the governor is still in her third year going into her fourth year, still has some folks in limbo. So it can be frustrating when you're dealing with, when you're in the private sector and you're dealing with an agency that doesn't have that leadership in place. So that's something that, you know, the governor's had to deal with over the last few years. Just this year, the acting directors of Access and DHS actually withdrew their names from consultation. So they're going to have to find new directors there and hopefully get those confirmed from Governor Hobbs's perspective. So, and I'm sure that'll play into the upcoming elections next year as well. Some of the things we've done over the past few years, we'll just go through a quick highlight list here. When we first came on, Governor Ducey and the legislature had put in, I think, about $100 million for some forest health initiatives into the DIFM account, and that first year, you all were able to earmark I think it was like 4.3 million of that money, basically focused on the Telegraph and Mescal fires. And in talking with Deputy County Manager Michael O'Driscoll, I think we're up over 9 million out of that pot over the last few years. So that's been a good initiative for the county. In fiscal year 2023, so in the 2022 timeframe, we were able to earmark $3 million of general fund money to DIFM, specifically for the Woodbury fire. So I know some of that mitigation and cleanup efforts, that was a big help in that regard. And then last year we worked on, we helped put your staff in touch with the ADOT folks on the Arizona Smart Fund grant. And I think $1 million was put into place there for a study on Russell Road. So I know that you guys have worked forward with ADOT on that study, and I think it's progressed far enough down the road where I think we're ready to keep moving, hopefully get that thing reconstructed at some point. So, and then Pleasant Valley Veterans Retreat, we'll go into that a little bit. And then, yeah, there's some of the engagement. We've worked with DIFM, as I mentioned, on the forest health. The State Land Department, I know that there's been some work behind the scenes. We've worked with Mr. Menlove and had a couple meetings with State Land Department to just think through what this process might look like. I know we still have some questions we're working through, and hopefully we'll be able to get to some kind of resolution there if you guys decide to move forward on that initiative. ADOT, the Smart Fund, there was a little bit of a hiccup this year with the ADOT 5-year plan, where that 260 State Route 260 Lion Springs section was potentially going to be put on the back burner. But I think Mr. Menlove did a good job showing up to that meeting and speaking and doing some behind the scenes work to make sure that people understand, yes, there's other parts of the state that are growing rapidly and they need these infrastructure injections of money, but so do we, and that's something that, you know, has been on your guys' radar for quite some time, and so hopefully we can keep that rolling with ADOT there. And then the Corporation Commission, we've had, you know, part of what Todd and I do is beyond just going down to the legislature. We do like to be that extension, and if anyone from the staff or any of the supervisors call us and say, hey, we got something we need some help on, can you help us think it through? We love doing that type of thing. And I know there's some franchise agreements issues going on right now, and we're working with you all on that, and we've reached out preliminarily with the Corporation Commission and some other folks to maybe work through some of those issues. So we'll continue to do that. The rural water policy we spoke about, and then the Veterans Retreat, which originally in fiscal year 2024, thanks to Representative Marshall, he was able to really push hard and get that $3 million to get into the budget for you all to be able to do some things with that property to allow veterans to come down and take part in the community and take part in that retreat, which is it's really quite a beautiful area of the state, and some of the buildings have been refurbished very nicely. So it's gone well. We had a bit of a hiccup this year where there may not be the exact language that allows a county to operate the Veterans Retreat. And so thanks to Todd and some of the folks that he worked with alongside Mr. Menlove and the supervisors, we were able to get right under the wire some language in the Senate budget, both the House and the Senate, but get that in before that sine die happened this year. So I think we're in pretty good shape with the Veterans Retreat, but we're obviously hopefully willing to work more with you guys and keep that running and keep it growing. For 2026, next year, it's coming up quick, like Craig mentioned earlier. These things, it seems like we used to have a month off in July, but that doesn't really happen anymore. And we're already working on some of your priorities. And I think, to Craig's point earlier, the earlier we can get some of these priorities on paper and get them vetted through some of your representatives and senators, the better. So the last bullet point here, we have other funding policy priorities, question mark. I think what Todd and I typically like to do is have a couple of your representatives come up, do a work session like today, and get some of those things put down on paper so that when the legislative session opens up, we can get rolling right away and make sure that regardless of how things play out, if one chamber goes with the governor and the other doesn't, or vice versa, or you just never know the twists and turns that are going to take place. So the sooner we can think those through and get those vetted, the better. And regarding the other legislation that could potentially happen that we're working through CSA with is some WIFA reforms, allow counties to be able to access some of those grants. And so I think that's going to be a team effort, which Gila County will be happy to play a leadership role in. And then some potential blight legislation. I know there's a proposal that we're hoping to get to CSA on Monday next week on potentially running a bill on helping the county be able to deal with the blight issue. And I think it's more at the state level, it becomes more of a tax issue, and so it can become pretty complex. And so if we're going to do this legislation, we'd obviously want to run it through CSA, see where they're at and what their support level might be. But either way, if this bill goes forward, it's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of conversations, and potentially be open to changing language or thinking through different ideas. But we've got some ideas down on a draft that we'd like to circulate through CSA to at least get us started there. And then I talked a little bit about the franchise agreements reform and affordable housing with the state land department, and we'll continue to monitor the forest health. I think there's actually a meeting in Payson today with Representative Marshall on some forest health issues that Todd and I will watch the replay of online when we can. And then rural water, I think that's, as Craig mentioned, that's definitely going to come back up. It's a priority of the governors and of Senator Griffin's and a lot of other folks around the state. And then other infrastructure funding. I know Mr. Menlove talked about how can we get some of these things that are priorities to us funded next year. So some of the ones we looked at this year did not get funded, so we want to get those down on paper, which is that last bullet point, and hopefully make a run this coming year. So that's all. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Andy. Great presentation. So Supervisor Humphrey.
Just a few questions. On the blighted deal, blighted properties, how do you think that's going? You said there's a lot of issues, and it sounded a little on the negative side about trying to get with the state or get into legislation.
Well, yeah, and I
with
don't
our
mean
blighted properties.
Sorry, I don't mean to sound overly negative. It's just anytime you're running legislation, it just becomes a little bit more complicated because you have to build a coalition and you have to make sure that everyone understands what it is. You have to be willing to tweak language, change language, maybe not get everything you want, but get enough of what you want. And so just running a bill, if we can get it done in 1 year, that'd be great. Sometimes it takes you know, a little bit longer depending on what the issue is. So I think, you know, we tried what our goal was, and I know we've been working with Mr. O'Driscoll and with Mr. Menlove on some of the language. I think our goal is to keep the language as simple as possible. And I think it has, you know, we've come up with this responsible parties language, responsible taxpayer, so that someone other than the county or an unknown entity has to take responsibility for some of these cleanup fees and taxes that are owed. And so we're trying to keep it as simple as we can with our draft language, but we'll see where it goes. So I think the first step is continuing to work with CSA, which they're aware that this has been an issue of ours that we're interested in. And then, you know, it'll be up to Todd and I and you all to push this. If we decide we do want to run something, we'd want to obviously find a bill sponsor and run it from there.
So at this point, we don't have a bill sponsor?
No, but I think we've got some good ideas that we can discuss on who might be the best people to run that. So
Okay, I appreciate your efforts. Something I've been working on for 8 years, and another year goes by, and then another year goes by. So I appreciate all your help in that, because we have an awful lot of properties that people are living next to that the counties can't do anything about other than tell them, there's nothing I can do, you're living next to a rat trap and I can't help you. So I appreciate all the help that you can give us, and anything I can do, I would be happy to.
great.
Thank you.
Did you have something, Mr. Menlove?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I wonder if we could pull back up the list of items that we have identified. And if it's okay with you, to spend a few minutes, and Supervisor Humphrey had a lot of discussions, but Craig and Jacob and the CSA team may not have been involved in those discussions. To Supervisor Humphrey, if you didn't mind, just give a little bit of background of what the issues that we're facing, and you just touched on those a little bit, but and potentially some of the solutions that we maybe have looked at. Would you mind doing that?
I don't mind at all talking about blight. I wished I would have known ahead of time so I could have shown you some pictures of some of the things that my constituents are living next to. And so I'm very unprepared to do a presentation. But I have people that are living next to places that are so bad that our health department can get approval to go in and clean these places up at our expense, because there is no known owner of the property. Or one of our gracious investors that invest in properties in our county don't invest in one or two, they invest in multiple properties. They can, after 3 years of paying the taxes, they can foreclose on that property and own it. If they own it, they become responsible for it, like you and I are that own property. But if they don't foreclose on it, it's just at a dead end. Again, I have no owner to take care of that blighted property. And so, like I say, I'm very unprepared. I could go through many, many, many pictures and slides of even mice running around, and it's really a bad situation where people pass away and it never goes through probate. And so therefore, a nephew's living in the property, but he's not liable for it, but he doesn't take care of it either. Or it's in a family trust. They can't decide on whether to sell the property or keep it. There's 5 or 6 people. And so this property is just sitting there rotting. And we have constituents that are working in our community that are paying their taxes, that are doing everything they can, and they have to put out traps to keep the riffraff from next door out of their property. And they call me, and I have to tell them, I apologize, there's nothing I can do. So that's why I think if the state would ever pass legislation that if you are paying taxes on a property, because if you don't pay taxes on a property, then it goes into a tax foreclosure sale. Perhaps somebody would buy it that would take care of it, or then it would go into the investors. deal, which ends up in the same place. But there's lots and lots of properties that we can't do anything about. And so I think it's a state issue, and some of the people are cleaning it up, and which takes care of the landfill. Some counties are, cleaning it up and taking the money from the closure of the landfill to pay for the cleaning up of these properties. And we're doing some clean and lean, but you can't really lien a property that there is no owner to, and if you do, you'll never collect. And so where do we get the money to do that with? So the counties are fighting, trying to come up with different ways to deal with this problem, and all of them have their little deals. They got their own dump, so they're dumping, but in our case, we can't just do that because our dump has to close. So if I do a cleanup on a property or a cleanup on a neighborhood, out of my constituent funds, I pay for the dump fee. So our counties are spending a lot of money cleaning up these properties, as to which I feel it is a state issue. It's the state of Arizona. And so, when I talk to these people and I go up and actually some of the properties you can hardly look at without getting sick, you got to tell them there's nothing I can do. And so call your state legislature. And so anyway, I've been fighting this for 8 years, and I fight it hard, and it is a major deal to me, because as I said the other day, in Gila County, the way our jurisdictions are set up, it's equal on constituents. But the thing of it is in District 1, 2, and 3, in District 2, most of my community is not governed by a city or another government. So I get an awful lot of calls, and I appreciate Supervisor Christensen and Supervisor Klein, but in their districts, a lot of their district is governed by another government. Reservations, Town of Payson, Star Valley. So they don't have the percentage of governing of rural property that District 2 does. So that's why I get hit with a lot of these issues. And like I said, I could talk for 6 months. That one picture would show you what I could explain. And so, James, thanks, but like I say, I've been fighting this for 8 years. And at one point in time, I even went to our legislative conference and asked the other counties if our treasurer kept track of the people that are paying property taxes that don't own the property. And then at least we would know who these people are that are not being responsible for their properties. And all the counties said, yeah, they would appreciate that information. But when it came down to it, I dropped it, because what good is it going to do to put the treasurers through the work that they have to do for this information if there's no teeth in it? Because we're putting them through a lot of work for information that we can't use to help clean up these properties. Now, if the state said whoever's paying the taxes is liable for the property, that would be valuable information, because then it would be a trust, a nephew, or whomever. And so, but anyway, yeah, I could be on this all day, and we've got a long day. So, James, thank you very much. But gentlemen, believe me, I have a portfolio that would make you, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of that property, and then I'm going to take the picture of the property that sits on either side of that to compound the difficulty of the issue that I'm dealing with. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Horn, thank you for letting me impose,
No,
I know it's
that's fine.
a very important issue that we are confronted with daily. You are confronted with daily, so I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing.
And I believe the other counties have the same problem, because they were willing to go with a bill to have the treasurers find out who's paying property on, taxes on some of these properties. So I do know that the other counties are, or at least rural counties are interested in something being done. And every little bit helps. If it's funding to help us clean it up, that's a Band-Aid, but we'll take a Band-Aid. But I would rather a law pass that if you're paying, everybody in here that owns property, you're paying taxes and you're liable. So why should somebody be able to be next to you and live that way and not be responsible?
Like you mentioned last year at the CSA Legislative Summit, that was brought forward to the supervisors, and a lot of support from the supervisors around the state. A lot of counties are facing the same issues. We're looking to develop the thought process and work on that to give it more teeth, as you mentioned, that we need to put something that allows us to take action and to move forward. So appreciate your thoughts and comments today on that. On the WIFA reform, WIFA had come to us at Gila County and had wanted to introduce a program of eliminating cesspools. And it came to pass that the counties are not allowed to work with WIFA on that. Communities are, cities and towns are, counties are not. And so the legislation is to allow counties to work with WIFA on cesspools and help to clean those up, which is another big issue in Gila County, throughout the entire county. Franchise agreement reform, we had with Southwest Gas, an old franchise agreement with them, and wanted to renew those franchise agreements, cooperation with them. Southwest Gas, we sat down with them. They came to us and said, you know, we've got one that doesn't have an ending date. We're happy with the way things are. We're not going to partner with Gila County. We're just going to leave things status quo. Brought that to Andy and Todd, and they have been working with Southwest Gas specifically to get a new franchise agreement so that we can ensure the right-of-ways are protected in Gila County. And that's what these are, is franchise agreements that if a franchise, a utility cuts into the right-of-way of roads and those kinds of things, that we can ensure that those roads are adequately brought back and are safe. And so we're not necessarily looking at a legislative reform at this point in time, but we are, Andy and Todd are working with us to help ensure that our franchise agreements are all consistent across the board. Another thing that I specifically wanted to ask about, and you did mention it, Andy, about State Land Department, that we have been looking and investing quite a bit of money in considering a purchase of state land that is out by our fairgrounds. I want to propose, and Georgia Humphreys, if there's any consideration that we do of taking this potential purchase of state land, when we originally purchased the fairgrounds, it was through a legislative act that it was not bid out, but we did buy it. We purchased it at fair value, but it was done that we just purchased it directly. We didn't have to go through the auction process. If that would be a possibility, since it's been done in the past, I want to explore the option of potentially purchasing that 360 acres through a direct purchase and not have to go through the auction process. We have invested quite a bit of money in that, and if we were to go to auction and we were not the successful bidder, we would be out. We would get reimbursed some of that money that we've invested in environmental impact statements and all kinds of things that we've had to do. That if it's possible that we could, through a legislative action, just purchase that property directly and not go through the auction process. There's a little bit of difference of the auction process going to the highest bidder. It's because most of the state land are going into housing developments down in the valley. We're looking for recreation and potentially workforce housing, that we could do some improvements in this area and potentially other areas throughout the county. So that's why it's just a little bit different, that it's not for us to earn money or to revenue generating operation, that we want to be able to enhance the quality of life in Gila County. And that's a specific opportunity. So would like to, with your, I I guess you can't take a vote today, but that's what we would like to look at for that, potentially if we need to have some legislative action for that. And I'll let you go back to your comments around the board.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for all that, James. I'm afraid to open my mouth too wide because Joe's gonna shut me up in a minute, but but good ideas. Andy and Todd, thank you guys so much for everything you've done for us. You've done a lot. You know, going back to the vet center, for me, that was a big help that you just got done and got passed through this last round with the budget and all that. That really was good. I think looking down the road in the future, and some of this may apply to you guys, some of it may not, but you know, we're 90% land base of other ownerships, federal, state, tribe. But from the federal standpoint, a lot of what they're doing right now is going to be pushed down to the districts, to local control, which is going to end up rolling down to us, not necessarily the state. And so I think, you know, I've had these discussions with Mr. Minlove. I've brought them up in some other past meetings on updates and things. So, but I see it more and more. I'm hearing it more and more from the top in the feds, and it's something we're definitely going to need to be. We're going to need to be prepared for very soon. It's happening now, and so, and there's a multitude of things going to hit. I mean, what's surprising is they're skipping the regional level. They're even skipping the SO level to a certain degree and going straight to the districts. So even though on a good neighbor agreements and things like that, we work directly with the Forest Service Ranger on the districts. I'm not sure how that's going to eventually shake out, but I see that happening. But in one of these moves too, a lot is being discussed about purchases of property for housing that the feds are going to open up. You know, we've seen Senator Lee from Utah try and do that here recently, but the fact of it remains right now that there's still an avenue where counties or whatever could go in there and purchase property from the feds up to 40 acres for certain developments and things like that. So there's going to be a multitude of that going on. I think in a lot of ways when you wrap that back around to the vet center and the fact that it's been in there and it's running through the process on the Hill to transfer the ownership, I think that's helping speed that up right now. Because it seems like a big push is to clean up a bunch of these. And so I think that's helping us there. But I see other things, you know, forest health, the rural water, and Craig's been in the middle of all this since it began, and it's a big issue. It's going to be a very important issue for us, and I know what you're saying about the management areas and stuff like that, where the focus seems to be, but eventually it's going to come around to the rural side of whatnot, and that's going to be us. And you know, they can tap into aquifers about anywhere they want and move water, and so that's a big thing with me and my constituents, and I'm pretty sure some of Steve's too. And so that's something that we definitely need to be in the middle of, along with your guys' help and all that. The forest health, DIFM is in the middle of a lot of that when it comes to the wildfire situations and to the degree of the logging part of it. But I brought this up to us as a board here a while back, that from a county standpoint, I see us needing to be in there as well. When they speak of forest health, to me, that entails everything from the Mogollon Rim south. A lot of the projects that we see going on, and rightfully so, they're all needed. They're all good for the watersheds, but a lot of it's on top, the plateau up there on top of the Mogollon Rim. I've had this discussion with Patrice Hossman enforcement, and we both agree that, you know, we need to be looking at bigger areas. But one of the things that impacts us in Gila County is being under that rim. So like when it comes to your typical logging projects, working around private properties, things like that, it's a little tougher because they're taking all that product up over that rim. And it's a trucking transportation cost. And so one of the ways of fixing that, which is very expensive, is to put another facility on the south side of that rim. But when you really look at that versus the good it would do that watershed, it'd be a worthy project. All that Mogollon Rim country drains right to Phoenix Valley. It all goes to Phoenix. And so to keep that water quality and everything up, we need to be in a lot more discussions with SRP for one, and probably APS for another. The other thing that we've been working with really hard, and I don't know if you guys have been involved with it, but public safety shut off with APS. We're kind of in the middle of this because so much of what APS has problems with is basically on public lands, Forest Service. So where we've tried to help is being kind of working with both sides. And one of the things the Forest Service is interested in on those utility lines is being able to protect them so they could pull off their watershed projects, especially controlled burns and stuff like that. Right now, they're afraid of burning power lines and then having to pay for everything. They're not so much afraid of power lines starting a fire as much as they are burning it down with theirs. And so I've been able to pull those two together. We're looking at that, but I know that there's going to be a lot more discussion, especially from APS. Not so much SRP. SRP is in there a little bit, but they have more to do with the big KV lines. But that's going to be coming up real soon, and you know, I've really pushed the fact that I understand their reasoning if they feel like they need to shut off a power line, but what I've been trying to stress too is what you're trying to prevent, you're going to cause another problem. And what you're going to have for a planned event will end up becoming an emergency. Because when you turn off power lines, you turn off electricity to a lot of houses. I think last count was it impact in Gila County somewhere around 13,000 different people. And so that becomes a whole nother issue. So as this goes along, I'd sit down and talk to you and Todd about some of this, and we continue to work with APS, and we want to help find the solution to all that. And I really feel like being able to try and advocate for wider right-of-ways on these power lines and things like that will help alleviate the need to turn off any power. And so that's what I'm really hoping we're going to be able to do. The other thing, and I know this may not even have anything to do with you guys, but it might. With their cutbacks, with all the people that's left the federal agency, Forest Service, lot of empty positions. One of the biggest is their recreation programs, and that impacts us here in Gila County hard. When you take like Roosevelt Lake, for example, and we have all the visitors and the users at Roosevelt Lake, and they don't have a whole lot of people to keep them cleaned up, operating, things like that. And then they're talking about maybe shutting down certain campgrounds and doing different things. So it's a discussion that I intend to have here one of these days, set that up and talk more about it, but that's out there as well. And I guess in overall what I'm trying to say is the Forest Service is pretty much cutting back and shutting down. That's just the way I see it. And I think there's going to be big changes. I think the state, they will lean more on the state, especially for fire protection. But they're also going to be leaning on us counties for a lot of other stuff. we'll keep you up to date on all that as it comes up, but thank you for everything you guys have been doing. You've been awesome.
Thank you, Supervisor Klein. And just to speak to that, I think you're right on the money with forest health. It's something I've worked on. I've been out in the forest with Tommy Martin, you know, measuring trees with tape, and Sierra Club arguing with the Forest Service over which ones we can cut. You know, it's something Todd and I have worked on for a long time. And I think even if there weren't these federal cuts coming down over the last 20 years of my career, I've already seen, and you guys have seen, it takes more of a village than just the Forest Service from up high telling everybody how it's going to be. And Arizona stepped up in a big way in that regard, and I think Gila County and Coconino and some of these other counties have as well. So, and I think, you know, in the current political environment and federal environment, that's going to be even more important, like you said, going down the road. And Todd and I are certainly happy to help there, because it's becoming much more fluid, the conversations and responsibilities and funding and what needs to be done. So we're happy to do that. And then I did want to also speak to the blight issue one more time. Didn't want to leave the impression that we just came up with some language and we'll hope for the best. This is something we've worked on for a couple of years now. Todd and I have done a lot of research. Jacob has done a bunch of research on this as well, and the CSA had a couple working group meetings last session so we can kind of all have a better idea of what some potential options might be. So that's something we, you know, it's a heavy lift, but it's an important lift, and it's something we've been working on for quite a while. And hopefully, you know, as these conversations come down the pike, you know, we can coalesce around some ideas and policy proposals that make sense. Todd and I went down to Ledge Council, which is the office that writes the legislative language that ends up in bills and gets voted on, during last session, and asked for some help on some language surrounding the blight issue. And they basically said, get out of the office. This session's not even over yet. What are you talking about next year for already? So it's, you know, these ideas have been out there. We're working on them, and I think we're in good shape to progress down that road, and we're, you know, on a good time frame. So definitely one of our top priorities, and we'll keep working on it.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it very much, and I understand that it's a heavy lift, because if it was easy, it'd have been done a long time ago. So, thank you.
If I may say one more thing, you know, when I came into office 8 years ago, we had a famous motel down there in Winkleman and Hayden, right on the border between them, right on the highway, right on that curve, and it was a mess. It was a bad mess. The wind would blow, and part of the roof would end up in the highway, and their public works crews would have to go get it out and push it back in a pile and whatnot. And we went to work on that project, me and Kathy did, and I'm new in this position. I'm totally learning everything at the time. I mean, I don't know. Thank God for Kathy. But we went to it, and we worked with it. One of the problems is this motel was pretty big, and right in the middle of it was a division between two parcel numbers. One side had went back for past taxes, and the other side we're still waiting on. But they're connected in the middle. I mean, it's just one building basically. But anyway, long story short, we finally just came to a roadblock. We didn't know where to turn. As a county, we didn't have the money to clean it up. You know, the town down there didn't have the money. So it just so happened I had a roundtable meeting with the governor in Payson. And so Kathy put together a big file with all the pictures and everything. And I walked up the steps to that meeting to go in there to meet with Governor Ducey. And his assistant there, oh man, I just drew a blank. Anyway, he was standing on the porch, and I shook his hand. I knew him, and you guys do too. But anyway, I told him, I said, hey, before the governor gets out of here today, I really want to hand him this file and talk to him a little bit about it and see where I could turn. And he said, what is it? So I told him, and I gave him the file, and he's looking at it, and he's looking at it. Oh, that's a mess. I said, yeah. I said, and guess what? And he said, what? And I said, you own it. It belongs to the state of Arizona in care of the county. I said, this is yours. We're just trying to clean it up. He's like, are you kidding? I said, no, you own it. And so we went to work with Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, ADEQ, and got it cleaned up, and one project led to another, and now Kathy is a part of a organization, the Blight Busters organization in the Copper Corridor. They've received a lot of money in grants and working on assessments for a lot of different properties in and around. And so anything that comes out in way of support for grant money for something like that, we need to know about it as well. That Blight Busters goes from Superior into Tim's district, into my district, all down that Copper Corridor side. So it's a really good thing. They've done assessments on some different buildings, getting ready to demolish them and go on. So anything you hear about that, let us know as well.
Will do.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Supervisor, and thank you, Andy and Todd. You guys seem to have a real determination. Your efforts are always for the needs that we have here in Gila County. I think you really understand Gila County, and if you didn't, you better probably today. So I would only bring up, in addition to what's been discussed, that some of the allocations for funding that the state distributes to the various counties for HERF or for, you know, ADOT, the various things, and I can't speak to all the variables, but Gila County is not just 55,000 people. We get like 8 million visitors a year from various places in the state and elsewhere. That impacts the county with our Sheriff's Department, our search and rescue, the 700 miles of roads that we maintain for the Forest Service and for others that are our own. And all of that impact that 55,000 people would have virtually no impact on is impacted by these visitors. And so we need to somehow look at achieving more compensation for that. And I don't know how to do that. That's an idea I'm just putting out there. If we could, that'd be great. More money is always better. But you know, we're running our entire public works system on like a $6 million budget from HERF. And that's just really not enough. So anyway, thank you guys, appreciate that. If there's nothing else, then we will move on to the next item. Thank you guys for being here today. Item 2C is information discussion regarding the management of Gila County owned properties and state Arizona owned properties which are in the care of the Board of Supervisors. Good morning, Mr. O'Driscoll. Do you have a team coming forward?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Yes, I do. We have in the audience, we also have representatives from the Assessor's Office and Public Works as well. We have the Treasurer's Office, and we have GIS, Tom Holman. As Retta and Tom put together this presentation on the properties that the county owned, properties that the state of Arizona owned, it became very clear that this was a huge project that I knew very little about. So I needed help from everyone here, including Marion Shepard, who has some very good institutional knowledge about properties and how they're sold in Gila County and the process that goes through the Board of Supervisors and those kinds of things. So thank you. So I have everybody here in case the questions that you ask I don't know. I'm gonna ask for help for that. But a while back, the Board of Supervisors asked staff to put together a presentation on county-owned properties to have that discussion. And when we were doing that, it turns out that in talking to Supervisor Humphrey and the Blight area, there is also a big part of the property in Gila County that's owned by the state of Arizona. So we split the presentation into two distinct presentations, county-owned property and state-owned property. Neither of those presentations actually are similar, so that's why we split it up. And how we handle those properties vary in complications. as far as what do we do with the blighted properties, the state-owned properties, and the county properties. And so what I'd like to do is just start with the county-owned property presentation. We do have the presentation attached, but we're not going to go through every slide if that's okay with the supervisors.
A lot of these, we've had multiple property deals where you've come before us, and the Hayden properties and the Payson properties and the things we've been hashing this, in my opinion. So if we don't see it again, I'm fine.
Great, thank you, sir.
I've pretty much been to all these properties, Michael, so I don't think we need to go through the slides unless there's a particular property somebody really wants to delve into, but more or less what I would be interested in talking about is the process to get rid of them.
Perfect. So if you look at the county-owned properties, most of them are right-of-ways, transportation, right-of-ways, floodplain properties, those kinds of things, along with all the property the county owns that we have our operations out of, including the buildings, this building here, the courthouse, the landfills, those kinds of things. And we do have some properties out there that we've acquired in the past. There are a couple properties out in Hayden, for instance, that the Board of Supervisors years ago agreed to purchase so we could just clean those up. And we couldn't clean those up unless we owned them. So the Board of Supervisors several decades ago purchased some properties like that. And then we have other properties out there, such as there's a large 20-acre piece of property that's next to the Gila Community College up in Payson, and those kinds of things. And I'm assuming that those are the properties that this discussion would revolve around as far as the property that we own and your thoughts on what to do with those moving forward. Is that correct, Supervisor?
So, from my standpoint, yes, Mr. Chair, but, so if you don't mind real quick on, and like I said, I don't want to delve into the properties in Hayden. I think there's 6 or 7 different properties down there that we do actually own. We have no business owning them. And so I want to ask you guys, and Joe may have to be the final word on this, because I believe if we actually own a property, we can't just deed it over to another government agency like the town of Hayden or Winkleman for $1. We have to do like a 90% of its assessed value, an outright sale. And that makes it kind of tough. It makes it real tough, because I feel like in my position that I wouldn't want to put any more money into any of these to spruce them up just to get a few dollars out of them. I would rather see just use the town of Hayden be able to take these properties and do what they want to with them. Fix them up, sell them, use them, whatever it is. But in saying that, when you talk about these small communities, they don't have the money to go in there and buy them at 90% of their value, So maybe my question is more for Joe than it is any of you guys, but the last I knew in the properties we've kind of dealt with, that's been the case, and I don't think there's any way around that because of state statute. Is that right, Joe?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Klein, I'll look into it, but basically, you're right, you can't just deed it over. There has to be a process that the board enters into to dispose of property like that, even if it's to another level of government. But I will look into that and then make a written recommendation with alternatives to the board.
And from our discussions like with Craig and with Andy and Todd, this could very well be something coming up in the future to go back and make another run through legislation to try and change. I don't know, just throwing that out there. But it does put a kink in things when we try and do that. And I'll use, for example, Winkleman. We had a piece of property that, sat right next to their public works. And so it was the same scenario. So we did a long-term lease on that to where they could go ahead and do what they needed to with it, and it's just basically a lease. But these other ones sitting here, I know that if it's for transportation or drainage, we can do certain things with properties. But the properties that the county purchased years ago, none of that really matters that I see, you know, that's outside of that. So that'd be good, Joe, and maybe there's something in the future we can work on that, try and get something changed there that would give us the ability to transfer ownership to another town or whatever it is and let them do what they want to.
Thank you, Supervisor. Yeah, the state statute is, and I thank my team today for giving that to me, is 11-251, number 9. That sort of explains how a county can go, forward with selling a piece of property in a 90% assessed value. And you're absolutely right. And if Marion Shepherd has a few minutes, that she could sort of explain the property that the county can purchase prior to an auction for $1 is what, Gila County is set for transportation and flood. If, Marion, might you be able to sort of explain that process real quick?
Sure, I'll try to keep it real short. I do believe the board's pretty familiar with all the years dealing with these properties, but basically, when a property owner has not paid their taxes for 7 years in a row, the treasurer is mandated by statute to deed that property over to the state of Arizona, care of the Board of Supervisors. The next step in the process is she gives me those deeds and all the related information. I review that, we scan the information for each parcel, and then we send it on to the Public Works Director and the county engineer. They review the property and they determine if any of the properties can be used for a purpose related to transportation or flood control that would benefit the county, a city, town, or special taxing district. When they do identify a property, I contact that county, city manager, or if they say the county wants to purchase it, we just quickly get it on an agenda and the board reviews it and sells it to the county for $1. We came to the dollar amount many, many years ago just as a way to just change hands, right? And it has to be related to a purpose for transportation and flood control. So in the statute, it allows the board to sell it to the county or one of those entities before the auction. The auction is also required by statute. The board must conduct it. We have to have a list of available properties, I think by the first Monday in November of each year. That is typically why the board has their sale in December. We've gotten a little behind in that, and there is one other paragraph in the statute. I just can't remember the exact number of the statute. And it lets the board, if we identify a contiguous owner of property to the subject state-owned property, that they can come to us and we could sell before the auction. But it has to be just one contiguous owner. I've only come across one instance ever where I brought a property to the board to sell it to that person, because usually there's more. And basically, we have the auction for the last few years. I think since 2020, 2021, we have gone through Public Surplus Company. They handle it all. We've made a profit because a lot of people don't do their due diligence, and that's where we're at. And then the properties, I should get to this part real quick. I'm trying to make it quick. The properties that did not sell at the previous auction, they basically sit there. In the past, we had a process where anybody could come to the clerk of the board's office, and the board gave the clerk the authority to sell the property for the lien amount. Just to have a record of that sale, then it's placed on an agenda item for the board to authorize the chairman to sign the quitclaim deed. That way we have an historical record. We did try back in 2022, we kind of, I think other counties have done this, but we gathered up all those properties that didn't sell at previous board auctions, and we had another auction, and again, we made money. Here's the problem. When somebody gets the property, they didn't do their homework, and here we go, and it's a perpetual cycle. In 7 years, it comes back to the state. Monica has to do her thing, we have to do our thing, and so on and so forth. So that's not a good thing either. So that's what we do. So we really, on behalf of the board, the clerk's office is responsible for tracking all that property and what we do with it. So we can go back to maybe, I wanted to talk to James, to talk to you all about maybe going back to at least over-the-counter sales, because the clerk's office right now, we don't have time for that extra auction. It's enough to keep up with the yearly auction of newly deeded properties, but to be able to sell it for the lien amount, because then it is a win-win, because we get it back on the tax rolls. That's it. Any questions?
Any questions, Supervisor Humphrey?
No, none other than, I think, any way that we could prepare to sell a property to get it back on the tax rolls, to make it easier for someone to purchase, would be a good idea. I like getting homeless properties a home.
That's been my whole goal, is just what she says, is to take these properties that's out there, just sitting there, and get them back to somebody who can use them and put them back on the tax rolls. I mean, that's.
If I may,
Yes,
I want
Mary,
to add
go
one more thing. We do also have a process in place that is ongoing, and it does work well, is if an adjoining property owner comes to the board and can prove that they have the property adjoining the state-owned property, they can place a sealed bid to the board, and the board can consider selling that property for less than the lien amount. This is possible because many years ago, the Board of Supervisors adopted a resolution that stated that if there was a certain condition, the board could waive selling the property for the lien amount. And so that's one thing we talked about. We had a little meeting with Michael and his team recently, and we talked about, you know, that gave the board some way to sell the property for less than the lien amount for certain conditions.
Great, thank you, Mary.
Okay, so, okay. Yeah, this is a deep dive. I got a ream of paper here. Okay. And I asked Melissa to print it because I wanted to see the whole thing. And it's huge. It weighs 12 pounds. So we have various types of properties, and the properties I'm looking at right now are in, well, this one's in Pine, Strawberry, et cetera, and they involve roadways, drainages, right-of-ways, things like that. We're not going to be talking about that. Those are the properties we need to keep. We have those for a reason.
Right.
I think that what we're trying to talk about is if we have a question as to why do we own this, then that's the ones we want to review. What's the purpose of this? Was there a need? Is there a need, or can we move it on? And is there a way that in the incorporated cities, and I was looking at Payson and Star Valley, we own drainages and right-of-ways and different things, properties in those incorporated cities that I'm not sure why we have that. But I've received phone calls. Hey, this tree's hanging out on my roof, and I was told it belongs to you, this tree. And it ends up being in Star Valley. And I'm thinking, why would we own a tree in Star Valley? Well, we own some sort of a drainage. And then we have to get the surveyors out there to determine whether that tree is actually on our land or if it's on something else. And it seems like, can we move those properties to the actual incorporated cities, towns, rather than be the caretakers of something embedded in an incorporated area?
Chairman, that's a great question. So one of the things we discovered as a group as this presentation was coming together, and Tom Homan and the assessor will be working together on this project, is we own a lot of property, and it's all over the county for different purposes. So when the board comes to the staff and asks, can you put together a presentation for the property we own, there's this packet here. Yet part of the packet, a lot of these properties we own have a very specific purpose. Transportation, flood drainage control, those kinds of things. And so what we want to do in the future is when the board comes to staff and asks the property, what is the property the county owned, we could filter it out to avoid all of those and just get the board a particular type of property you want to look at. And so Tom Homan and the assessor are going to be working together to create new filters in our search database, right? So when you ask us what properties do we own that are flood control related, we could pull up just those properties. We don't have that ability right now, so when you ask us to do this research, we come up with this entire packet. So that's a great question. As far as those properties, we don't have an answer for you today, because the next step after this presentation is to sit down and go one by one with these properties and identify which ones we shouldn't even consider selling, and what properties are in other areas that we may own, that we may approach the other municipality and say, can you use this for transportation or flood control? And then we could go through that process of getting it over to them. That's the next step in the presentation.
So I'm gonna use Star Valley. So let's just take Star Valley for instance. They're incorporated, so they're the ones that do the maintenance on the roads, right, Alex? And all of that. But so for instance, if there's a road in Star Valley where there's a sliver of an easement that's still in our name as a county for ownership, it would only make sense if we deed that over to them. And if I'm not, and Joe, I'm sure is gonna correct me if I'm wrong or check on this, but I think when it has to do with transportation, we can do that, or drainage. And so when I went through this list of properties, which was pretty difficult on the phone, looking at it, but there is a lot of little slivers in easements and on roads. A lot of it is located in the unincorporated areas, along the way. And so there's no way that I would ever see that a landowner would want to take that on or add it to theirs and pay taxes on it just to have it as part of an easement that they basically can't use. And so, but the ones inside the incorporated areas, it'd be nice if we have those properties like that we can just go ahead and clean that up from our standpoint, lighten our files down and get rid of it and say, here's Star Valley, here's all of these for you, or here Winkleman or Globe or whatever it is, and get, because otherwise they're just gonna sit on our rolls forever. They're not going nowhere.
Yep, I agree, Supervisor, thank you.
Okay, any other questions right now?
Yeah. Let's talk about the property on 260. Are we good with that, Mr. Chair?
Let's jump right up to the 20 acres.
Yes, sir.
It's on my list.
Well, I mean, it's probably one of the largest, most significant pieces that we have discussed in the past as being optional as far as its use.
Yes, sir. So I'm willing to hear your thoughts on that.
Let's get rid of it.
Okay.
I remember the discussion, and Tim, you can correct me if I missed something here too, by all means. When we built the new building in Payson, the Tommy Martin Klein building, we threw all kinds of ideas out there on the table. One of them was to actually develop that 20 acres and maybe go in partners with Town of Payson and just put kind of a bigger type complex there. But the infrastructure and everything else that was going to be involved, it made it a pretty high cost to get that project done. And at the time, my feeling was if we could pull that off and use the property, that's good. I know I've had conversations with Mr. James about, you know, housing type projects or something like that. But overall, I've come to the realization I'd rather sell it to somebody who's gonna do something with it than just to have it keep sitting there. I really would. We take that money and put it back into our county projects or wherever we wanna do it, but, that's my thoughts.
Supervisor Humphrey, any thoughts?
Well, in the 8 years, we've talked about putting a hotel, motel, affordable housing. I even said it's just sitting there, it would be worth more flat. Let's use the material and start putting it on our dirt roads. That's 8 years and it's still sitting there. So we've done nothing with it, and I don't see that it's gonna do us any good the way it is. And I think the money would be beneficial, because we have a lot of capital projects that we want to work on and things we want to do. And I believe it's a pretty valued piece of property, or could be. So I don't see us, you know, now that we built the Tommy Klein Martin building, I don't see us needing that property for future county facilities. So I don't see any reason for us to own that property.
And I would agree with all of the sentiments. I think we should look at a way of liquidating it or trading it for something more useful. But there's a 1 acre portion right dead center in the middle of it that's owned by the town of Payson. That's awkward. Access is awkward to it. The shape of it is awkward. I have a feeling that we got a hold of it mainly because we got a hold of 40 acres, 20 of which went to the college. And then we have that as residual. And so what its value is, I don't know. If it's better as buildable housing, I personally don't feel that the county should be in the housing business. I don't want to pursue that, go down that rabbit hole at all. I'd like to see that pursued by someone else. The town of Payson is pursuing some projects like that, but I don't want to give it away either. So I think we should pursue, starting after today's message to you, start pursuing options of what we can do with that.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate the direction. And if there are no other projects in the county-owned section of the presentation, I can move into the state-owned properties if you would like.
Okay.
If I may,
Yes, sir.
just one question.
Yes, sir.
Say if I wanted to buy one of these properties in Hayden, who would I contact? Could I just ask for, is it for sale and get with a realtor and find out the value of the property?
For the state-owned, that
It's
would
a-
be the clerk of the board.
No, it's not state-owned, it's county-owned property.
County-held, that would be the treasurer's office.
Public Works. Okay,
If somebody wanted to buy one, whoever they talk to, I'll bet we'll all make the decision to sell it, can't we?
well, but if we're wanting to get rid of them, well, I figured a way to try is let somebody know it's available.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Well, the county owns it, and everybody just keeps on walking. It's like, okay, well, if you let somebody know, hey, this is available, well, yeah, I could do a little fruit stand there. What do they want for it?
Right.
And so if I'm asked that question, I don't know. So I guess.
If it's owned by the county-held liens, that's done by the treasurer's office. And we have a list, an ongoing list that anyone can buy for $30, and it has a list that are county-held. If they are deeded to the state of Arizona in care of the Board of Supervisors, that is done by the clerk of the board.
Okay, yeah, but like the ones in Hayden, the county owns them out.
Well, it's deeded to Gila County.
It's already, Gila County has the deed to this property. They own it.
Is this something where,
And so somebody would go to Public Works and make Public Works an offer?
No, would you be able?
You may be talking about multiple different types of properties. So the properties
Okay.
that
This one right here.
Yeah.
If the county purchased it at some time in the past, so we own it via deed, then something would happen. If it's under tax lien, it's through the treasurer. If it is later, the 7 years where it went to a warranty deed, it's the clerk of the board.
Yeah, I knew all that.
Yeah.
Chairman Christian,
Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor Humphrey, if I may, the problem we have with county-owned properties, so the properties you're talking about are in Hayden.
Sure.
And at one time, Asarco, through a lawsuit, had to remediate some of those properties. They hired a company, and we could not, they wanted to come upon the property to clean up asbestos, et
Do the
cetera.
remediation.
So what we had to do is we could not sign authorization for them to come onto the property because it was owned, the properties were owned by the state of Arizona and care of the board. So to remedy that, the county purchased the properties for $1 each. That allowed the board chairman to sign to do the remediation, which was done. And now when it's a county-owned property, per statute, to sell a county-owned property, you must first of all get an appraisal. That's required by statute. And you could pass that cost along to the potential buyer, but you must sell the property for 90% of the appraised value. That's the problem. Where are you going to find someone who's willing to pay 90% of the appraised value?
Well, I think property in Hayden wouldn't appraise for a whole lot. I mean, it's not a place that people live anymore, especially now that the mine's shut down and things of that. So I would think that property there would not appraise for a whole lot of money at this point in time.
Right, and as we were saying earlier, if you have someone interested in purchasing a county-owned property, say in Hayden, get them in touch with, Tom Homan, and then the board, the process would be to bring it before the board through an agenda quick item, and then the board would consider selling it.
Okay, so my question asked and answered. If someone wants to buy one of our county-owned properties in Hayden, call Tom.
Yeah, call Tom.
Thank you.
Other duties as assigned.
Thanks for being here today. So that same process will go for the 20 acres in Payson.
Call Tom.
Call Tom. You an appraiser, Tom?
I guess.
I don't think your phone's gonna be ringing.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Okay, what else?
We'll figure out who the appropriate person is.
Yeah, we don't know, but we'll be.
Okay, Mike, go ahead
Not
with the
it.
state.
We can move on to the state-owned
Yes.
properties. And again, we have a whole list of properties in here. And this speaks to Supervisor Humphrey's comments with CSA and Todd and Andy regarding blighted properties. If you look at this presentation, there's quite a few properties that the state of Arizona owns in care of Gila County Board of Supervisors that are dilapidated, falling down. Then the question that we were asking is, what can the county do? Which leads us to the discussion before with Andy and Todd, is really Gila County can't really do much with these properties other than just bite the bullet, clean it up, and take the financial loss, or purchase the property to clean it up. And then we would own that property like the other properties in Hayden Winkleman. So we would get into sort of the real estate business if we made that decision, if the board sent staff in that direction. So that's sort of what we were discussing as a group, what that would look like. We were looking at some of the state statutes, and there really is nothing in there to allow the county to try to clean up these properties and get some of that financial responsibility back to us. So we would, in fact, currently we use the health department on some of the worst properties out there that have public health issues, that we're able to post that property, and then we pay to go get that property cleaned up. And we do put a lien on the property, but we also know that it's very unlikely we're gonna get some of that money back, because those properties are sitting for decades in Gila County. So that's sort of the challenge that we've discovered with the state-owned properties in Gila County. So are there any questions about this? Yes, sir.
So it would be the same process as what happened in Hayden, basically. So if it's state-owned, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, state-owned, we buy it from the state for $1. If there's a property that Supervisor Humphrey wants to clean up, it becomes Gila County's property. We clean it up, and then we could, as property owners, we could actually turn around and put it on the for sale block, which maybe if the neighbors, you know, might be interested in, or maybe we could recoup our money or something like that for the cleanup. The only problem that I would see with doing something like that is we're almost in the land business. You know, would be one of the big issues for me, and just how much money is there that we would have to soak into properties on cleanup in any given year. I mean, it's a worthy project, and it's a chance that you could, you know, basically flip the property, but it didn't work in Hayden. You know, we did that in Hayden, and Hayden's there's other circumstances with Hayden, I know that. So you can't really use that as a good example, but that is an opportunity that we could do as a county, right?
Chairman, members of the board, certainly. And keep in mind that the last step is if the county purchases the property for $1, we clean it up. In order for us to sell it, we still have to sell it for 90% of the appraised value, right? So, so as far as the financials go, you know, if you purchase a property and you spend $20,000-$30,000 cleaning it, what is the property ultimately worth when you clean it up? And is it worth spending the $20,000-$30,000 to clean it up and then sell it and only get maybe $5,000 or $6,000 back?
So let me ask one more question, because I know you got a ton of them, and I might need your input here too. You know, we've cleaned up some properties already. What has been kind of the average cost for clean? I know it depends on the site and everything like that, but what's been kind of just an average ballpark cost that we've spent so far in cleanups?
Approximately right now, Supervisor Klein and members of the board, it's about $7,000 to $10,000 to do, basically take a lot of the junk off the property and collapse many of these properties have old cesspools, and to collapse the cesspools. So $7,000 to $10,000 for some of the properties. For some of the larger properties, closer to $15,000.
So that's where, you know, if you had a smaller property, you put let's say you put $8,000 into it on cleanup, and the assessed value is maybe $6,000, but on the other hand, you're putting it back on tax rolls as well.
Yes, Supervisor, and some of the impacts that we look at from, you know, public health society, you know, a lot of these properties are being used to you know, sell drugs, have squatters in there, and that brings a lot of crime to the area. So that's also part of the equation, is getting rid of some of these properties can reduce that in Gila County as well.
I agree.
Tim?
Okay, yeah, jumping at the bit. Anyway, yeah, you said, you know, crime and all the drugs and you know, just filth in the neighborhood. So kind of where I'm at is, let's test the water. And the reason being is I don't have a crystal ball, but I got a cowboy hat, so kind of the same thing. Anyway, going forward, like you said, a lot of the state-owned properties, the reason they're state-owned properties is because no one can live there. Investors have purchased them, or people had to move out because of the cesspool failed and things like this. Well, I happen to know that Tri-City is going to break construction here pretty quick. They're out for bid. So looking at the future, a lot of these places are not going to need their failed cesspools, and they're not large enough lots to put in a septic tank and leach. But there is a sewer system going in, and I have faith in this. I mean, you know, again, it's a heavy lift, but they're working on it. They've been working on it for a long time, but at least they're out for bid now. So by testing the water, and that's public information, that there's gonna be sewer to a lot of these places that don't have it now. So some of our worst places, I mean, I would be willing for the county to purchase them, clean them up, get them appraised, because they don't have a sewer or septic, so they're not gonna appraise very much if it's all you can do is use them as a storage lot. And some of these investors would probably be interested in purchasing them now that they're clean, knowing that a sewer system is on its way to some of those areas. Now, does the county want to be in the development business? No, they don't. But we would clean up our neighborhoods so we wouldn't have the blight, we wouldn't have the filth, and we could tell our constituents that we're cleaning it up as we can afford to. But then too, once we get some of these places cleaned up, and our local realtors know some investors that know that the sewer is coming, they may be willing to pay for that property. And if we've only got $1 invested and the cost of cleaning it up, I believe testing the water that even if we broke even, it would be a big win in some of these neighborhoods. And so if we sold it for a percentage of the appraised value, then that would just give us money. And like I say, test the water. If we could put in a budget, so, you know, put in a budget for X amount of dollars. So we purchase and clean up properties till we're out of those dollars until we sell some. We don't sell some, bad idea. We spend a little money trying, but at least we cleaned up some of these neighborhoods a little bit, and down the road, Tri-City gets in phase 2, maybe they will sell. So my 2 cents is, you know, I would be willing to test the water, you know, not just say, yeah, let's just do it. But I'd be willing to say, let's test the water, because I do know in my district, a lot of these properties will have sewer to them in the future. You know, it's gonna happen. Is it gonna happen in the next 3 years? I don't know. Is it gonna happen in the next 5? I don't know. If I did, I'd be in line to buy most of these properties. But as a supervisor, I would like to clean up some of these areas and give some investors the opportunity to try, because that's the difference between Hayden. Hayden is going down in Claypool, Central Heights areas, some of those areas, you know, that's where Tri-City Sewer is gonna go. And that's a lot of these state-owned properties.
Well, I think another good benefit is this as well, and I own a property in Tim's district in Claypool, so I see a lot of these different places around there. And a lot of them are just tweakervilles. And quite honestly, that's pulling down the whole neighborhood. I sat there, me and Kathy did, in a Hayden Town Hall meeting one day and listened to an older couple that lived on a block there in Hayden. And that's, besides them, that's all that was there. It was a bunch of druggies. And they were pleading with the council, is there anything you guys can do? Can you railroad them out of here? And I think that might be a good stance. I don't disagree with trying to clean up the trash part of it, obviously. But for what I've seen and kind of living around it over there in Tim's district is you get those kind of houses in there, and then there's squatters that move in, and then their buddies are there, and pretty soon they're dealing drugs out of them. Pretty soon you got cops on the corners hanging out, and the whole bit. We all know it. We get it. So there may be an opportunity, and I don't disagree with the fact that we ought to maybe think about giving it a shot and do a run at it, is to take something like that, turn one of these neighborhoods around, and get the good people back in there that need to be in there. And I think in the long run, it may take a while, but between maybe selling something at 90% value plus getting it back on the tax rolls, Gila County would eventually get its money back and bring a better neighborhood back into some of these communities. And so,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have, as has been noted in discussions heretofore that we've had, that we have put about, I think last year, about 100,000 into the budget, use that to clean up some properties. We were going to put more in, maybe up to $250,000. I'm not sure with the challenges we had with the budget, that we do have some money in the budget that we could have the discussion, potentially go that. Mrs. Melvin and I did make a visit to town of Superior. They've had a program for a number of years where they buy properties, fix them up, and then sell them. It started with some seed money, and then they just, as they buy the properties, fix them up and sell them, they just kept the money in that fund. I'm sure Mayor Bessich and town of Superior would come and glad to come and talk about that, what the mechanics of going through that process are. I unfortunately did go visit with town of Superior and have not taken any action, have not moved that forward yet, but with your conversation today, would be glad to do that if that's something you would think would be good information to have of what their program has been.
Thank you. So, Michael, if you're able to designate a property as a health issue, is there money, grant money available to help remediate that? Or is all of this cost just going to be on us?
So I'll answer in two different ways, Chairman. So yes and no. So when we go and find a property that's a public health nuisance that meets the Arizona State Statutes 36601 definition of what a public health nuisance is, or an environmental nuisance, right? Title 49. Those state statutes are delegated to the health department to make that determination. If it's an immediate environmental hazard under Title 49, we can tag the home or the property, just notify whoever it is there. Sometimes nobody's there, right? Sometimes these properties have absolutely no ownership. And then within 24 hours after we post that, the health department can hire somebody to clean up that nuisance, which typically means cleaning up the entire property. With some of these properties, there's 4, 5, 6 vehicles, dripping oil, transmission fluid, all that stuff. That cost is, Mr. Menlove, in his mention of $100,000, and next year I believe he was kind enough and the board was kind enough to give us $150,000 to spend on cleaning up these properties. We do not get that money back. We put a lien on that property. Our county attorney has recommended that we put a lien on every property we clean up. So we don't own those properties, we just have a lien on that property. The chances are that we'll get money back in claiming of any of that lien is very little, very slim. The second part of that question is we do own, like in Globe, the Willow Motel here, and Kathy Melvin is working with our health department, and Kathy's great at getting brownfield grants through the EPA, which will allow us to demo that property. So that's being paid for by a grant. So there's two ways we can get cleanups going. Typically the residential homes in the unincorporated areas, we pay for out of general fund with the $100,000 or $150,000, and the larger projects we really need help on, such as the brownfield grants to the EPA, which Kathy is helping our Director of Public Health get.
Okay. Yes, sir.
If you finish, if I may.
I was just going to comment that this process seems very expensive, potentially very expensive to do. And so we have to kind of wonder where we're going to, how much we're going to do, and it's just like a big money pit, seems like to me. But it's got to be done, and we're the ones left holding the bag. So, anyway.
And Chairman, members of the board, I will tell you this. One of the benefits we're seeing is when we're cleaning up these properties, the neighboring residents are seeing the benefits as well.
Yes.
And when we're cleaning up these properties, there's rats, there's insects, there's all sorts of things that we're getting rid of as well. and the neighbors are seeing those benefits as well. One neighbor was catching rattlesnakes from a property and rats that were coming in, so we cleaned up that property. So we're seeing a lot of good benefits from the residents that neighbor these properties as well, and they're extremely thankful that we're at least looking at these.
Yeah, I would say that that's almost two budgets, because one would be to clean up property that are the investment properties or things of that nature that are a health problem. And so that's what is in our, the 100,000 or 150,000. That's kind of what that's budgeted for, is cleaning up properties. But that wouldn't be cleaning up properties that the county owned that we bought for $1. And unless you want to run them out of the same budget, you're the accountant guy, you know, because there would be a difference between properties that we're cleaning up that will never get anything back other than it's liened. But some of the state-owned property, if we bought those and cleaned those up and put them up for sale, then, I mean, that would be an accounting thing on whether we run them out of the same budget or not. And so, you know, I would very much like to test the water and see how beneficial or how investors feel about some of the areas that Tri-City Sanitation is trying to put sewer in. And if the investors like that, or we're able to sell them, then what a great thing that would be to clean up a lot of these areas that people don't live in because they can't use them. And so, anyway.
And if I may, Supervisor Humphrey, if you like me, I could reach out to our top, I would say about 10 investors and just pose that idea, that suggestion to see. No, these are the ones that are, no, hold on. So these are the ones that do the foreclosure process. They're just a small handful that follow through, and they do the foreclosure by going through the courts. So I wouldn't say to the others who don't.
Yeah, because some of those investors
know.
have 100 properties, and
You're
some
right.
of them are creating problems for us.
Correct.
So
But
we
these
don't,
are just the top 10.
Yeah, so if you have good doobies and bad doobies, then if you want to talk to the good doobies, that's fine, but don't talk to the bad
No,
doobies, because we
course
got
not.
enough problems with those guys already.
And those I can identify, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So, my 2 cents would be is if we do something like this, I'd like to see it under one budget line item.
Yeah.
And I'd like for us to all settle on the amount we feel comfortable, or our budget feels comfortable, that we could put into this to try it. I agree it would be worth a try, and I would like to be real focused on the properties that's selected, that we have a better chance of doing something with.
Of selling.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Klein, we have 150,000 in the budget for property cleanup. We can use that as directed by the Board of Supervisors this coming year. So.
I'm good, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. So any more you need to add to your presentation?
Thankfully, no, sir.
Is there any from the other members of the panel that would like to have a comment? Or no?
No.
I opened my mouth and you give me work.
Yeah. Well, if there's nothing else on this item, I hope you were given some direction there, and appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you, Chairman,
It's a
members
pretty
of the
big
board.
mountain to climb here. Yes?
I have one question. On all of this, we kind of talked about properties and blighted properties, Hayden properties, Payson properties. Is there something in these properties that you felt may have needed to be discussed today that we haven't tapped into that to give you information going forward? I mean, because like I say, you know, properties, and we've talked about several, and to do some about some. Is there something that we didn't touch today that you would feel that we need to kind of touch today for you to get direction on?
Supervisor Humphrey, members of the board, no, I think I've gotten plenty ideas from the Board of Supervisors today to move forward with talking with county administration and possibly where to direct this program next. So
Okay.
thank you very much.
Same question?
Good direction, good conversation, I appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, but there's nothing that you feel that we haven't tapped that may need to be tapped today?
We've got some good directions, so thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen. So, our last item, item 2D, information discussion with Ashley Dixon Kleiber from the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension to recognize the current services they provide residents of Gila County and forthcoming changes due to Renee Karsten's retirement. Ashley, did I pronounce your name correctly?
You did.
Kleiber?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Good afternoon, Ashley.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. You may recognize me. I was here a couple weeks ago presenting. I think that was more of your finance presentation. But I just wanted to introduce myself. I've been named now the new county director, the interim county director for Extension.
Okay.
Since, as you know, Renee is going to be retiring. So I wanted to kind of go over some of the things that we're offering currently, and then also discuss potentially any changes or updates that you all have or concerns that you have. So currently, we are still offering a lot of different things. 4-H, obviously, that you all are very familiar with. We're doing personal finance programming, parenting, doing free hearing and vision screenings for 0 to 5-year-olds. So we do those screenings on young children, then refer them to primary care or eye doctors, whatever is needed. We have all of our tribal programming going on right now still that we're continuing to offer. Early literacy to improve literacy rates in San Carlos. Juan Arias is also doing a lot having to do with agriculture, natural resource ranching in San Carlos, as well as 4-H specifically in San Carlos. We're doing master gardener work still. I think currently there's a program going on right now, or a series going on in Payson for that. And then Ashley Hall is still continuing to do range monitoring and that kind of thing. So all of those things are continuing, but now with a vacancy of not having a 4-H agent, we do still have 2 staff that are 4-H, but in the interim, I am going to be kind of helping, we're hoping that we can hire some kind of program coordinator senior, but that's not up to me. It's up to the bigger powers that be. So Renee and I worked on a request to put in, and even mentioned that you all voiced that you were concerned about that. And so I'm going to follow up this week with a conversation with our extension director. But I wanted to introduce myself so that you all knew me. If there are issues that arise, please reach out. And also, not only issues, but if you have things that you feel like are gaps that could be filled by extension, I would also be interested in hearing those. Beyond that, I think that's pretty much it. I did want to invite everybody. We're doing an open house on Friday at our office. That's also kind of a going away. I know 2 of you can't be in one place at the same time or something like that, I think.
Oh, we can be.
Oh, you can? Okay, great. Then everybody can
That doesn't
come.
mean we will be.
Okay. You probably don't want to spend more time with each other than you have to. No.
I'm going to be in Tucson.
Okay.
So.
Okay, but I did want to extend the invitation. And that's for everybody here. We're gonna all the program areas are gonna have things set up to discuss the different things going on, but also more importantly, it is gonna be a going away for Renee and her time that she has spent in Gila County. So that's from 10 to 1, and you can feel free to drop in anytime between that. And you can meet all of our staff and that kind of thing too, if anybody is available. So I wanted to ask you if you have any questions, concerns that I can help with right now, or that I can find out information for you about.
Thank you, Ashley. Supervisor Humphrey.
Questions or concerns? No questions other than if people have local issues with their 4-H leadership, I would like to know where to direct them to.
Okay.
And you know, that's, and my concern is 4-H is big around here, and I would like it to flow as well as possible, because I feel it's very good for our youth to be a part of, and I would hate for them to be discouraged in any way.
Sure. If there are, so I'm going to say Twee Bishop is going to be the person here continuing to do 4-H, but if there are major issues, please direct them to me for right now, and I can figure out what to do. I will admit 4-H is not my background. I've been in extension for 15 years almost, so I can figure it out. It's just not my area of expertise, but I know who to reach out to. So yeah, definitely. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Supervisor Klein.
Actually, thank you for being here. But yes, 4-H to me is very important, and whatever we can do to support 4-H and keep it going, I really want to do that. And
Definitely.
so it's real important. We see. I hope they put a person back in Renee's position.
Yeah.
And we go on. A lot of 4-H kids here in Gila County, and we need to keep it going. So.
Certainly.
But thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley, for coming here today and introducing yourself and letting you know the shooting sports are important, I think, in the 4-H realm for both North and South.
Definitely.
Really keep that going and keep this thing rolling. Make sure that you express to Renee the appreciation we have for all the work she's done and wish her the best in retirement.
I will.
You
Yes,
bet.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
And thank you for your contribution for the shooting sports, definitely also in Northern. So, yeah, I will, and I could give you my cards, or would it be easier just to email everybody?
You can
with
hand
my
it to my
information?
assistant. She's
Okay.
right behind you.
Okay, I will give those to you then.
Thank you.
So that everybody has my cell phone number too. If they
Sure.
need me.
Yeah, we'll take cards, whatever you got, okay?
Okay.
So we appreciate that. Is there any other questions for Ashley?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much,
Nice to meet
Ashley.
you all. Thank you.
All right, we're going to keep moving then. Call to the public. Anyone here in Globe, the internet, or Payson? No. How many do we have today, Cassandra?
We're at 81.
Awesome, 81. Okay. Now for our reports, Manager Menlove.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we are planning to have lunch here as soon as we can adjourn this at Copper Bistro for the board and board staff. We have it posted so that we can, and we do enjoy being together. No decisions or anything will be made, but we can have conversations.
We made enough decisions.
Yes, we. So that is immediately following. Please plan to attend at Copper Bistro. And I will be traveling all of next week, so I'm likely to miss next week's board meeting. There are some things that we're going to get on the agenda, which will be the following meeting. So I'll cut that off there today, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, I met with Michael and staff on the 23rd, and I'll attend the luncheon for the Tunnel Creek Bridge Thursday in Tucson, and yeah, Supervisor Christian, Supervisor Klein, thank you very much for a productive work session today. I think it went well. I think we got a lot done. I just wanted to bring up the fact that we've got a lot of capital projects and a lot of things going on. And on our work session, if we go 2 hours a month times 12 months, that's only 24 hours of discussing projects that are coming up in the future. And so if we go 4 hours, you know, just maybe, I don't mind if I've got the day to take a lunch break and come back to do some more on work sessions if we have things to discuss. So I just thought I'd bring that up, and, you know, if you guys don't mind being you come all this way, if there's things that we need to go over in work sessions, if we could maybe continue and because like I say, We got a lot of capital projects coming up. The property thing, I'm sure, is come backing at us now that they've got things. So I was just wondering how you guys might feel about more work session time as needed. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Supervisor, and I'll add to that comment that I agree with that. We should meet as often as necessary, not just what is normally prudent. And so if we need to have longer sessions or we need to have more often, then I would agree with that. We are here to conduct the business of the county, and if it requires more time, then that's why we're here. Supervisor Klein.
I'm with you guys. You know, I make the commitment to be here and hit these meetings like we're supposed to be doing, and if we can make a whole day out of it, I'm good. All I need is a break in the middle of the day. But I agree with Supervisor Humphrey and you, Steve, that, you know, we have a lot of things coming up. You know, we have landfill issues. We have other things that, as a group, we need to be able to sit down and have the time to discuss. And we very seldom can do that on a regular agenda item in our regular meetings. And so to stack this up and get some of these work sessions done, Michael really likes putting all these together and staying on top of it. So he's all for it. I'm positive he's all for it. So anyway, with that, what I would say was last Wednesday I was at the Arizona New Mexico Coalition of County meeting in Thatcher. It was the Arizona State Cattle Growers meeting, and they usually have it in conjunction with that, with the Arizona Cattle Growers meeting and the New Mexico Cattle Growers meeting. So the next one will be in Albuquerque in December when the New Mexico Cattle Growers have their meetings. And so I'll be at that one as well. You know, there's a lot of different issues, but right now the big one is the wolf issue. The feds, the administration up there had actually put more or less a cease and desist deal on spending any dollars when it comes to the wolves. They're paying salaries for people that's in place, but they're not giving them any travel money, any project money, helicopter time, tracking time, or anything like that right now. I don't know really how that's going to play out. That's been a big discussion with not only Arizona, New Mexico Coalition Counties, but also in our eco group. The wolf project is actually was a project passed and through Congress and all that, so it's in place there. But so I don't know if they're just playing a game and holding the funding back without really saying that. I don't know where it's going to go, but right now it's kind of a checkmate between both sides. And the ranching community is saying, yeah, this is great. Let's just go ahead and delist and get rid of everything and whatnot. And then the other side, the biodiversity side, and those folks over there, they're saying, oh, this is just a temporary hold up. They're just evaluating budgets like we've seen them do. You know, they seem to went through a lot of different departments going through budgets and things like that. So I don't know really where it's going. I have worked, and Kathy put together a resolution that'll come up in front of us next week on the wolf, so that's coming up. We'll talk more about. But that was a big part of that meeting right there. And then yesterday, I was invited to attend a East Valley Copper Corridor Transportation meeting. It was put together by Mayor Mila, and Senator Farnsworth was the one conducting the meeting. And so what they're really looking at is Highway 60, the way it comes through and goes all the way through and all that, and the fact that when we have a snafu, they dynamite too much of a hillside, or there's a wreck that closes the highway, yada, 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 you're done. You're not gonna get up here, you know, without going way around, and whatever you're doing isn't gonna make it. Also, the 177 going through Hayden and Winkleman is just horrible, and so they brought it to the table yesterday, and Senator Farnsworth was talking about. There's a proposed road, I guess, and Craig, you might know about the 505 interchange that's taking place, and that's a north and south road. It'll tie in with the 24 and come out of Gold Canyon right there. So it's running north and south. So say for instance, like, I believe it's yesterday or day before, 60 was actually closed because of a wreck or a fatality. And so there was no way of going around it. And so, not easily anyway. So that's all being kicked around and tossed around right now. Senator Farnsworth talked about the ADOT Transportation Board, the projects, the money. He had a lot to say about different projects. The 347 was another one, which we heard in Payson that day that we were all up there. And so we're going to see more of this come about. There's going to be more discussion on it. And so what they're really talking about besides the 505 project and whatnot, but from Superior, from the tunnel basically on this away. You know, something happens there, it closes the road again. Or if there in fact ends up being some money and they decide to have another ADOT project, what's that going to look like? You know, you have that bluffy country come through there, that rock pile, and when you start blasting and dynamiting that, it's no different than what we see with the bridge. And so how can we help soften that if there's projects, you know, can we do something with the detours and whatnot? So there's at least discussion being made or started yesterday. Apparently there'd been discussion before that to some extent. So anyway, I sat in on that and listened to that one. And then yesterday afternoon, I met with Joseph and Amber and Bianca at the fairgrounds. We looked at the arena. That was on our agenda here a while back. And so I couldn't speak much to that because I hadn't seen it. So I went out there and took a look at that. What's being proposed is reasonable. It would be a better functioning setup proposed. Everything's there. The arena is standing in place. There'd have to be a little change on the design of the arena, but it's easy. It's panels, so you can just switch it. But it'd basically be moved from this area over around on the north side of the existing arena down there, and it would help. We have a pretty good cost in the material, the base under that arena when they put it up. I don't know what the overall cost was of that, but that material can actually be reused for the new setup if we were to swing that around. But we're looking at money, and that was my response yesterday. I think it's a worthy project. It just depends on dollars and what we can use. It is fortunate we have the DOC crews right there because they can help us remove the arena from where it's at and put it back up. It's just going to be in the dirt work that's going to be costly. Other than that, Pilt Fly-In is coming up in September. That's pretty quick, coming pretty quick. So I'm sure you guys are just wanting to go back to DC and go to the hill. Huh, Steve?
Part of my report.
So anyway, that's coming up, and then a little later on in October, I've got another WIR meeting in Mono County, California, Bridgeport, California, and that meeting will consist of basically setting the WIR budget and whatever other topics we need to discuss at that one. So, any questions? We good? Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. I don't have a lot. I will be going down to Tucson as well for the Tunnel Basin Bridge Project of the Year forum. Are we the Project of the Year, or is it going to be voted on?
We're receiving the award for Project of the Year.
We're receiving the award for Project of the Year right here in little old Gila County.
Yeah.
I love that. And so I'll be going down for that. I'll see whoever's there, and that'll be good. And yes, I am going to be going to the PILT conference in September. And Melissa spent all day yesterday just making airline and hotel reservations, all day. And so it's a bit of a pain in the tuchus to go, but we're willing to go. And I wanted her to try and set up some additional meetings besides just the PILT stuff with other players on the Hill. And so I'm probably going to be there a couple of days longer than what you would normally attend for PIL. I'm going to be there to try and work on other things. Well, that'll be hopefully a benefit to the county. And with that, I have nothing else. It has been an excellent meeting. I think we did accomplish quite a bit in less time than I actually predicted. So thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. I adjourn the meeting.